Welcome back. You're watching Global Lens. Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, the driving force behind Nigeria's Dangote Group, is in India with big ambitions and even bigger deals on the table. Worth an estimated $30 billion, Dangote has spent 4 decades transforming his company from a modest commodity trader into one of Africa's most powerful conglomerates. Today, the group spans cement, food, oil and gas and agriculture and is the continent's leading cement manufacturer with a massive 52 million ton capacity across 10 nations. And now Dangote is turning his focus to India. He's here to announce key partnerships with 2 of his most ambitious projects, the expansion of his Nigerian petroleum refinery and a major push into fertilizers in Ethiopia. He's expected to sign a series of mega contracts with both Indian and global companies based here. So what's on the agenda? The group plans to scale its Nigeria oil refinery from 650,000 barrels per day to a staggering 1.4 million barrels per day, including a new 750,000 barrel greenfield facility. And in Ethiopia, Dangote is expanding urea fertilizer plant to a 3 million ton capacity. Engineers India Limited will play a central role, emerging as a major contractor for both projects. EIL has already been appointed project management consultant for the $3 billion Ethiopian expansion. He comes to India at a time when India's exports to the country have surpassed $51 billion. That's not all. Total bilateral trade with Africa has crossed the $100 billion mark in 2024 to 2025. However, this is lesser than the China's exports to the country. China's exports to Africa are estimated at nearly $179 billion for 2024, with total bilateral trade reaching approximately $295.5 billion. For January to May 2025 alone, Chinese exports to Africa rose 20.2% year-on-year. Joining me now to discuss this further is Aliko Dangote, Chairman Dangote Group. Aliko, thank you so much for being with us. Let me begin by asking you, what brings you to India?
Well, we came here, to majorly sign the agreement of our new expansion of the refinery to take our refinery to 1.4 million barrels per day. That is the licensing and engineering agreement with UOP, which is part of the Honeywell Group. And we just did that this morning.
And if I were to ask you about your plans for India, do you see a greater presence for Dangote in India, maybe some investments in new sectors?
Well, there is. Right now, most of what we do with India, we do a lot of fabrication of our equipments, and we have quite a lot that we're dealing with India. But we want to look at other opportunities of where to invest, and we tried to invest before in cement, but I think that didn't work. But we're now looking forward to other good sectors to invest, most likely maybe data center, but we're looking at a lot of opportunities here in India, and there's quite a lot of synergy between Nigeria and India.
So when it comes to your refining business, you have a very strong ambition to take refining capacity of the Dangote Group from 650,000 barrels per day to 1.4 million barrels per day. By when do you want to achieve this, and what is the larger vision?
I think it is going to take us maximum about 3 years from now as we sign the agreement. So hopefully by 2028, we should be able to finish. My own larger vision is that we want to be the supplier of petroleum products to our continent, to the African continent. That's our main, target. Of course, the aviation industry is not really that matured in Africa, but so most of the jet fuel will be exporting it to Europe and the United States of America and other parts of the world that need the, jet fuel. But gasoline and gas oil, these ones will actually remain dominant in our market, which is Africa. And we want to make Africa self-sufficient in terms of their consumption of gasoline and gas oil.
What do you think is the role that Africa as a continent is going to play in the global economy in the years to come?
Well, Africa will actually play quite a significant role. We have the demography of Africa. We have very young population. We have the most arable land. We have a lot of these mineral sources, solid minerals, and I believe Africa will be supplier of the most raw materials. The critical minerals, we have them in large, excessive stock. So Africa will be very, very dominant, not only in terms of population, in terms of the economy. Some of us were actually pushing to open up the economy, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of people that will come and partner with us. Yes, there is quite a lot of this, what you call perceived risk, and that's what we're actually trying to prove to people, that it is just a perceived risk. This risk is not really there as bad as what people talk about. So as we go along, definitely people will do understand where we're coming from.
What do you think India should be doing in Africa in terms of stepping up investments, having a closer cooperation between governments, and also on the trade front?
I think what is missing, there are quite a lot of Indian investments, but I think we need more investments coming from, India. And one of the areas that I believe that will increase and strengthen this partnership is actually the government in terms of support in export credit, which China is doing quite a lot, but India is not really very strong in the export, credit. Is very difficult, for them. They are not really supporting most of their companies to, offer credit to investment like this in, Africa. So I hope there will be change of strategy, and I think this can actually open up more markets, between India and Africa. So I'm sure that will be, done very soon.
Is there a concern about growing Chinese investments in Africa?
No, the issue is that I know normally most Chinese companies that have either a project or they have a job in Africa, they are supported by Sinosure, which gives the insurance guarantee, and they on lend to this. And so it actually, help in terms of capital, in terms of the size of business that, we do. Yes, of course, couple of, or most of the companies that we deal with, they are either government owned or partly owned by government of China. But they do quite, a lot. It's not that they just go and make money, but they also put a lot of they put their balance sheet on the table. And, that really helps in terms of expanding the scope of business that we do with them. And I believe it's something that is good for India to look at what the Chinese are doing, so that it can actually expand business between Africa and India.
Could you give us a sense of what would be the top 3 areas of interest for you in India, and if there's any one recommendation that you would have for the Indian government to make it easier for India and Africa to do business together?
There are quite a lot of areas. You can talk of, solar energy, but even though it's difficult to compete with China when it comes to solar, but there are a lot of, industries like cement industries, like this thing that we're doing, where I believe there are quite a lot of in pharmaceuticals. We can do quite a lot in data centers. We can do quite a lot. So there are quite a lot of things that we can do between Africa and India. And I think sometimes these trade visits, they do help a lot in terms of opening up the market, in terms of looking at the opportunities, that we have in Africa.
And any final recommendation on how India can engage more economically with Africa?
I think one of the areas that we will look at if we are having anything to do with India is to look at data center. And that's one area that we'll look at. And the other, to improve the relationship, like what I said earlier on, is actually to see how can India Export Bank support a lot of the Indian companies in terms of selling their goods and services in Africa. Because without that kind of support, the growth is very, very limited. It's not going to be that, great. But I mean, the India Export Import Bank should actually try to look at areas of supporting African companies in terms of giving them, some level of sort of facilities to expand. With that, I believe we can easily grow maybe 5-fold or more than what we are doing currently. Because right now, everything is almost like on a cash basis. The support is not really very strong. So I hope the Indian government will give this kind of support. By then giving this kind of support, it will really expand the business.
Thank you, Mr. Dangote, for joining us with your vision for the India-Africa partnership. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Global Lens. Many thanks for watching. Goodbye.